So DIVIS stands for the Digital Interactive Victim Intake Simulation, and what it is a training application that we developed for the Army SHARP Academy. It's essentially a social simulation learning experience that enables SARCs, sexual assault response coordinators, and victim advocates to conduct an intake interview with a digital victim. It's a virtual interview. This is what the experience would be like for a trainee. They'd sit in the seat that I'm in now, and a digital victim would show up in their office, and it's their job to find out what's going on. So I'm not a SARC or a VA, but I've been working with them long enough that I can conduct an interview, and we'll go ahead. Is there something I can help you with today?
No one has to hear about this, right?
Well, Specialist Medina, you do have a level of confidentiality here because I operate under the military MRE 514. That means if you're dealing with any issue of sexual assault, it can stay just between us. You say someone broke some boundaries. Who are we talking about here?
Okay. It'll help me get that transfer. Last week, Friday.
What we like to do is use DIVIS as a training application to teach active listening and building rapport. It's really about the interpersonal interaction.
He overheard me, and I guess he decided to make an example out of me.
You can ask them any question about the scenario and they should be able to answer in a realistic and authentic way. It was really important for me to hire actors to play the roles of the digital victim when we started this project. And that was to achieve something I refer to as emotional fidelity, so that the person is behaving the way a person would. You would see the nonverbal communication, the micro expressions, things like that that would occur in a kind of nuanced interaction like that.
He shrugged it off. He basically just told me to shut up.
When a trainee sits in the training environment like you're seeing right here, they're sitting at a desk opposite a widescreen TV. So it's meant to provide an immersive experience. They're supposed to really feel like there's a real human sitting opposite them. So interacting with natural language adds to that. The fact that we can watch their performance and gauge their emotions and their nonverbal and verbal communication makes the system adaptive and responsive. So it's really meant to feel like a real human-to-human experience. In my key intake topics, you can see any word that I mention it recognized. I mentioned I was accredited by NOVA. I asked if he wanted to speak to a chaplain. I asked him if he was safe. I started getting into some of his reporting options, and those are recorded in the key intake topics. In the nonverbal behaviors, the camera that's looking at me is picking up my facial expressions, my head gestures, my eye contact, and you can see right here it actually recorded a number of inappropriate smiles. I intentionally smiled while the digital victim was telling his story. That wouldn't be an appropriate response, and so it picked up on that.
A lot of times we don't see what we're saying, we don't see how we look. We don't know what that sounds like to somebody on the other end, and that AAR gives them an opportunity to hear that feedback of, oh, this is something you did really well, or oh, this is something that you might want to work on.
So we've been working on DIVIS for almost 4 years, from the development stage to now it being deployed at the Army SHARP Academy in Fort Leavenworth. We interviewed sexual assault response coordinators about what the most difficult interviews they had, or the most surprising interviews they had. And one SARC told us that the victim was laughing through the entire telling of the story. And they were unsettled by this. We wanted to make sure that those were the types of things that were happening in these interviews so that they be prepared when they're in the room with a real person who suffered a real trauma. DIVIS is truly a collaborative project at ICT. We've got 4 different teams working in collaboration on this project. In fact, that was the idea at the conception of this project, which was to integrate the technologies developed by our natural language group, our perception group, our learning sciences group, and my mixed reality lab.